And we are live. Marvel's X-Men 97, the finale of season one. Let's brace ourselves, guys. We are going to be looking forward to one of probably the best endings, period, coming up right now. Let's get into it. All right, guys. Brian here, back with Geek Variants to cover all things Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, anime, gaming, Star Wars, and more. This time, X Men 97, and it'll be Extinction Part 3, where we are going to go with this amazing series. So far, it has knocked the absolute socks off out of me on so many levels. I have been nothing but thrilled and blessed to be able to watch this alongside each and every one of you. We've done live streams for just about every concurrent episode we've had thus far for the series. Had a heck of a time watching alongside each and every one of you. But my main question, and I'm going to pose this question in the chat, and I'm typing this out as we speak right now, and I may potentially even have my boy Will joining me as the episode comes up just a little bit. My main question and concern, my name kind of says it for itself where we're going to be going with this. Who dies tonight and why? And the question I'm asking this is just because of last week. I mean, keeping up with our general theme and the general direction in which this show has continued to go for so many number of reasons. I want to be sure that we are doing our due diligence here, folks. It's been a wild, wild ride. Um, to sit here and say I was not a little shocked by last week would be an understatement. You guys, if you watched here live with me, you guys will definitely understand where my head was at for everything. Because let's just be perfectly blunt. Logan would not have been my guess who died last week. And there he is, the return of the nameless one. Happy to be here.
Yep, I'm happy to be here.
I am so impressed overall with the just the series as a whole. It's been a wild, wild ride, my friend. Wild, wild ride. I was just telling the folks, Logan would not have been my first guess on who got axed from this series, just based on his healing regeneration alone. But he tried the wrong guy. I still feel like there was a bit of a Cyclops, a little bit of a bias there. He was like, no, no, you're on this team because when we talked on our recap, and if you're subscribed to the channel, you saw the recap. Literally, you could have swapped Beast out for Logan on team making. Things would have gone so much differently for everyone because we know that Beast would have made this mistake and Beast would have hit, a vital organ as opposed to our recurring war vet that is Logan straight up missing. It's like that's so shocking for someone who's been one of the oldest mutants out there, period. How do you feel about just what has transpired throughout this series?
I mean, and I think it has something to do with just how he's been with the X-Men. If it was just him and his normal self before the X-Men, I felt like he would have just kind of went in and then up and then just started tearing it up. But he has been known to show some restraint when the X-Men are involved to a degree. So I don't know. I think he should have just went ahead and went for the head. You know, it was simple
You
to put.
don't miss with the head. But at the same time, like for someone who's potentially able to show restraint of some kind, you think his long-standing beef with Magneto, the master of magnetism, would have propelled him to be more accurate, especially considering the fact that Magneto is, let's just say he's unathletic. Let's just put it that way. The boy does not have the dodge skills. Like he's not out here bobbing, weaving, night crawling his way, just poofing here and out and everywhere. You have a stationary target and you have a chance to go like a clean jab in the back. And you pick the non-vital organ side of the body. Magneto's gonna heal right up and just be like, damn dude, you just made me know like Swiss cheese a little bit, but I'm still gonna get mine. Because I mean, Magneto's Magneto.
Well, I mean, this is where possibly, and I thought they were kind of setting it up for Onslaught when he did get control of his mind, but then throwing the helmet on Xavier, so to speak, and trapping him there. That makes sense for him. But yeah, I don't know what to expect from this episode exactly. Onslaught is a thing. Morph has probably got a couple more transformations in him, and Sinister is just kind of setting up the wreck shop. So
I mean, there's so many different pieces and so many different variables that they've set up well with their writing in this one. It really begs the question why they let go that original writer when this whole season has done amazing as it has. I think the only episode, and I have all the episodes pulled up with my Disney Plus and all that good stuff. The only episode I did not care for was Motendo Life Death Part 1, which was episode 4. If you have one bad episode out of going into 10, that's phenomenal nowadays. Normally there's more filler and more fluff throughout these series, but this has been exceptional start to finish. I can't really say we had from a bad start gate to a bad end gate. Why would they have made that move that they made? What can you speculate on? What kind of insight
um,
you got on that, being the Marvel fan that you are?
there's so many internal workings that I could not say specifically why they let him go. It could be any number of things. It could just be creative differences or the direction he wanted to go with the show. It could be, you know, you know, inappropriate things. Again, you see, Disney is no stranger to letting people go when they do something that violates their particular way of thinking. But keep in mind, they also have no problem asking somebody back if they determine that they're in the wrong, i.e., James Gunn. You know, they brought him back to finish the series, and when he was done, he's like, "Yeah, I'm staying over here," because again, there was no, I don't know how to put it, no loyalty to him. I mean, they just kind of threw him to the wind before they did a full investigation into everything, or if they did do an investigation, it was extremely quick. So I don't know, but they learned and they waited with Jonathan Majors and that whole issue to kind of see what was going on. So anything that happened with the creator, Bo, like it's up in the air. He wrote seasons 1 and 2. He could get brought back if once I guess things maybe blow over, depending on what it was, or if they find that there was no issue, they can't bring him back for seasons 3 and 4, I guess, if they want to go that far. It just depends on what they want to do. But they also have the ability to spin off and do a couple things. But he's done an excellent job with this series so far. I would like to have him, barring any negative things that may or may not have happened. Whatever, I don't know, whatever reason why he got canned. But if it's within reason to have him back to continue this, I would like to, because I think that he could work the animated series in a way that you can have kind of how the MCU had. You had, one person kind of, hey, I'm the head of this, and filtering out to everybody to kind of run these different parts, but he had an overall vision for where it needed to go, and it worked well for setting up for Endgame. So can we do something like that for the animated series, which objectively is a lot easier to do because again, it's animation versus a bunch of CGI and sound effects and all that other stuff that's got to be added in to live action.
I was gonna say, like, as long as your voice actors stay healthy and you have a good writer, animation usually sets itself up. We've seen even companies like Sony has been able to get animation correctly. Into the Spider-Verse jumps directly into mind. That series is something they did. It's done phenomenally well. And then also at the same time, you still see Sony and they still put out stuff that you're just shaking your head at because we've seen terrible movies from them. And then Into the Spider-Verse on the exact other end of the spectrum. Animation, killer. Live action, Madam Web? Really? What in the
It's,
world was that production?
people aren't on the same page, and that's been the biggest problem. When people aren't on the same page, you're doing whatever. So whoever was running that, I think it had something to do with Amy Pascal and some other stuff. Like that's a whole different beast happening over there versus this. Because some of the rumors that I've seen have been okay, they wanted to get Tom Holland Spider-Man back, but MCU was not letting it go. So they were going to have to come up with another Spider-Man. And one of the actual Marvel writers was working on a probably like a superior Spider-Man type character that Sony was going to use because they have full access to the whole Spider-Man universe. So they can pull any other Spider-Man out and utilize that Spider-Man to continue with their movies or their whole Venom project or whatever they got going on. They can bring Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire back at any point in time if they want to. They have the resources, but Tom Holland is the only one that um, apparently is there's a contract piece in there for how he's used. So like even when they do Spider-Man 4, which is supposed to be in the works, again, MCU is going to have their hand in it and making sure that it goes how it needs to go for them. But everything else Sony is doing is there, which is kind of weird because we had Venom show up at the end of No Way Home, whatever. So he's part of the universe, but was that just sharing Venom and then taking him back? Or was it still meant to be interconnected, or we're not going to get a payoff for that? I don't know. I got so many things I can speculate.
Yes, with especially with Spider-Man, especially with the fact that we saw even Spider-Man appear within this series. So there's even that speculation that Spider-Man is going to get the same treatment X-Men 97 got, where his series is going to get revamped and brought back onto the animated circuit. And there's even been
Spider-Man
some
90?
potential rumors that, Miles Morales may be joining in at some capacity, depending upon, the licenses and the rights and all that stuff. But again, that gets right back in that whole speculation realm. It makes things difficult to see and broadcast. But from all of our fans' perspective, anything with Spider-Man's name slapped onto it, people gonna buy. Spider-Man has that Batman effect where you just say the name and people are like, you know what, I'm gonna buy it. And you know, I for one I like being on the stingier side of things. I like to keep things not oversold, but at the same time, you can't oversell Spider-Man. Spider-Man is for all ages, all audiences, and he's grown up with the older geeks. He resonates with the younger geeks. The teenage geeks get him and understand him, and then my generation definitely understands from the fact of, hey, I can resonate with Spider-Man because Spider-Man was one of those people that initially was like, we get you, we understand you. You are a superhero who could do just about anything in this world you ever wanted to athletically, but you're out here, living that struggle, but doing the right thing, you know, just based upon, the fact that he's literally selling pictures of himself so he can make his ends meet. So it's been pretty a wild time to see, what Spider-Man can or cannot do. You think we'll see any big cameos for this finale, or do you think they're going to keep it pretty close to the vest with in-house stuff? There's a lot of pieces moving already on this episode.
As far as cameos, I'm not counting anything that Morph does as a cameo, so to speak. It's more or less just like a cool thing that he's doing. But cameos, I do think it's possible that we could, see Spider-Man again come through at some point in time, as well as Deadpool. Those are the two that I think would be most likely to show up at any point in time. We have already shown other characters, so I don't know if they're going to bring them in like Colossus and all that. We've seen them Morph do that, so I don't think it would have the same impact if he were to show up now. I mean, it'd still be good if he were to show up, but I don't think it had the same impact if he were to show up now. I think that it's a possibility, the highest possibility for who to return that's not necessarily a cameo would be Bishop making a return to come back and handle business, and possibly Iceman, or Angel has already been shown with Morph, so Iceman. Um, although because it's another Omega level type threat coming in to handle business, so it could be useful, especially when it comes to technology.
I was gonna say because he was been a wild card. He was an essential piece within the first 3 episodes that we needed him to be the one to basically handle what happened with Cable and make sure that everything eventually got handled the way it needed to, so that he was able to survive. And then we see, how the timeline has been affected due to the virus and how all these different pieces have made things very difficult, really, to place as far as what we can and cannot do. As long as Gambit is not revived, and as long as, truth be told, Logan is not resurrected, just because I think his mistake was so erroneous and so silly on so many levels, that those two need to stay shelved. Because there's no way Wolverine's coming back at this moment in time with the way his adamantium was literally ripped directly out of his physical flesh in any shape
Mm,
or form. And those who have been in the comics know that it's not going to be an easy regeneration. And if at best, he's probably going to be out for this finale unless there's some kind of
I
time
mean,
travel shenanigans.
his regeneration factor is not going to be slow because his adamantium is gone. Like, his regeneration factor is still, working as it should. It's just that, that's a painful freaking way for it to be extracted out. But it is being extracted out in liquid form, possibly through his pores or whatever, which means it would negate the need for unnecessary healing. Like, he doesn't have big gaping wounds that he would have to heal, which means he can be back in the fight freaking and now unrestricted to Magneto, since he has no more adamantium. And he can just fight with bone claws. So I don't think
This
Wolverine's down and out necessarily.
which is always something we can easily speculate on. But I will say that the characters, it seems like Marvel, or at least the writers in the show, when they wanted to write off characters, the characters that they went about writing off in certain ways, they paid little to no attention to, or little to no mind to, so that it didn't have as significant an impact as it could have. Because Bishop, even when he was here, he wasn't doing much. Gambit, when he was here, the biggest thing he was his finale episode, his swan song, so to speak. Is That was his most prominent episode. Wolverine, he had some action alongside Jean, but even when he got what he wanted with Jean, it really seemed like he was more hot for Madeline, in a sense, because when Madeline was along there, he was hot and ready to go. And then Gene finally kisses him, and he's just like, "I don't want this.
Well,
We're just gonna chalk that up to a mistake and move on." And then those 3 characters have, for all intents and purposes, been sort of
I
sidelined.
mean,
I mean, they benched Aurora, our girl Storm, but at the same time, he ain't gonna bench her for long. She gonna
I
come
mean,
back with a vengeance. She's gonna get hers.
she was benched for a reason, because she's too powerful, and I see it necessary to bench her to bring her back for the final fight, where it's a threat worthy of her time. Um, but yeah, Wolverine, you got to think about it. Freaking, you want to win a game hitting that clutch 3 pointer, or you want to win it off a freaking a bullshit foul. Let's just be honest. Wolverine didn't want to get Jean that way, and that's one of the reasons why he acted the way he acted. He knows that she's conflicted. He knows that she's trying to figure stuff out, and he's just like, "Yeah, I want you, but I don't want to get you like this. Like, I want you to want me." And so at that, freaking, if anything, and there's also some guys that just like to chase, and it's like once they get what they want, it's like, okay, I don't. I just like the chase. I don't want the. I don't want the fling. I don't want the settle down and commitment. So
He's like, "I just want to continue the pursuit of you, and the pursuit of you is what I glorify." And now the fact that I got it, I'm like, "All right, cool, I'm good. I'm done here. I don't really need anything further." And then that kind of leaves us with, Scott, who his actions last week's episode, albeit we understand his motivations and what he was trying to do, more right now, he's cost Logan his life. Like, that's something he's gonna have to figure out how to understand where his place is and that his actions have these direct consequences for better or worse. We don't want it to have these consequences because he wanted to ensure that both teams at their time of their mission were able to succeed. And he knew because Gene reached out to him, hey, mission's not going. Something happened. We need to take a moment in time. And he was able to stall, I guess, by shooting Charles, who, for all intents and purposes, if to answer my own question, who dies tonight and why, I would be rooting for Charles to go. He has
Oh,
provided nothing but problems in this series. I'm hitting that refresh button now, guys.
oh yeah, it's ready.
Episode is posted. I will just share it with you guys. We'll be watching off screen. Leave your comments as we're watching along. We'll get there right with you. Starting episode now. So excited. We got a doozy. 7 minutes worth of content. And I'm not going to skip the recap or the intro because the intro is phenomenal.
Yeah, I rewatched the episode, so I don't need the recap, but the intro I'm gonna watch every time.
Fair enough. Understood. I need all this because I'm not the X-Men / Marvel fan you are.
I watched the episode 3 times a day earlier.
I will say also I never really talked about it even in the episode recap we did on the channel, which, if you're just coming in for the live watch party, we do episodic breakdowns on everything. Sunspot never really got his shine the way he should have.
I mean, he's getting it kind of right now, but just not in the fashion that he probably wanted. I mean, he made his choice, so.
Also, I should definitely give some respect for Sinister for being able to even mind control Cable, considering how mentally strong he just is as a telepath.
I mean, he planted that in him from when he was a baby, so it was a long time coming. He just needed the opportunity again.
Oh, Wolverine. They turned you into so many things. Looks like they're pulling Swiss cheese out of his body. That opening is still clean.
Wonder if Mystique's going to make an appearance.
Her being one of Magneto's main confidants could be interesting to see where they go with that.
That's a nice twist.
These dudes are insanely strong. It'll be super interesting. It is definitely interesting though that Charles has just been bald this whole dang time, like even in this flashback.
I mean, it's easier to get his telepathy out. No hair in the way.
He doesn't have any L'Oreal because he was not worth it. Logan kind of had it coming.
Yo,
You're ahead of where I'm at. What minute
you
mark
about
are
to
you
see?
at? Since you're that pumped up, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it's Iron Man. To say their friendship is complicated would be an understatement.
Very. The fact that freaking flashback was, yeah, not what we thought.
It is Silver Samurai again.
Yeah.
Cap, Iron Man,
Yes.
Daredevil.
Yep.
Doctor Strange.
Did not expect to see Iron Man in here. I mean, it's not far off with freaking Cap, but hey, I'm with it. But Daredevil is another one. Freaking, if you have Spider Man, Daredevil, Deadpool, Team Red. So
Oh boy, we got everybody.
yep. Dang. Hmm.
Appeal to my humanity. I'm a robot.
All right. Here. 0 given. Iron Man and Cap getting ready to go. Black Panther.
I wonder how they found him so quickly, or if he'd already revealed himself by that point. Oh,
Cloak and Dagger.
dang! They're going heavy on the cameos. Mega Red.
Actual Psylocke. Freaking is that Alpha Flight?
Tony's gonna lose his collective mind tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, all this world rocking stuff, like
Dang. Oh, Sinister got betrayed. He called Scott a deadbeat dad. I love this. Bastion is my new hero.
Uh-oh.
Is that? Oh, that's. Oh boy.
Yep.
He made a mistake. Things are gonna get a little interesting. Ooh, okay, that was a quick. I got you. Wasn't even a fight. I'm surprised Moon Knight didn't make a cameo in some capacity.
Moon Knight be murdering everything.
I'm assuming that's also the Hulk that's hanging out with Iron Man and Cap.
No,
But it is
no,
Dr. Banner.
no.
And faint. All you do is think and faint. Begging at the end from Sinister.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got my son.
Oh.
Morph gets the last laugh.
That's great retribution for Morph.
The power of the Phoenix, everybody. Oh, okay. We have a revitalization. Oh, okay. Disarmed him.
Dang, he just pulled a Quan Chi with a freaking beat down with an extremity.
Like, got your hand. Got your hand. Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself.
So yeah, that was Crimson Dynamo that was with Omega Red.
And that's an evolution on his part. Pretty dope looking though, I ain't gonna lie.
Archangel wannabe.
And as he's a robot, an extinction of humanity means literally nothing. He'll be fine.
Oh, shut up, Rogue. You betrayed everybody. I'm mad at you right now.
Because I think they're definitely going to give birth to Onslaught here in a moment. So he literally mind slaughtered him.
This is like everybody's in ruin. Nobody knows what's going on. Freaking like, yeah, it's gonna be a bigger threat that's gonna show up and take over.
Wolvie's still alive. And Scott actually said something nice about him. We give him props on that. You know, being petty.
That'd be onslaught.
Yep. We could lose Charles any day of the week, guys. He wasn't really valuable throughout. Least valuable player. All right, Nightcrawler, that's a good move. Okay.
I'm trying to pull something from Gambit book. All right.
I was gonna say is like they don't have Rogue is the closest thing we have to Omega up there, so this is gonna be interesting to see how things work.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, Rogue's our only heavy hitter we got up here, so she better be a little pissed about this.
Come on. Hold up. Are they? That was glorious, but that's Apocalypse. They finna wake up Apocalypse.
I'm sure he'll love that. Who is this ranking at this hour? I'll pay my taxes like the next man. Leave me alone. Wake up Apocalypse and Onslaught gets reborn at the same time. Let's just double down on villains. Hey, look at him.
There we go.
Roberto. What's up, Han? Hope you're enjoying the episode as much as we are. Is that Black Panther? There's Cap.
Mhm.
Oh, King T'Chaka. Nice.
Yeah, I figured it's T'Chaka from the suits and the time period and stuff like that. So
It's always nice seeing anyone from Wakanda in this. That's mean he knows this shit is real. Pardon my French. So if you're dragging Wakanda into this, you declared world war.
Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch,
House of M.
Blair,
Anybody?
his children.
No more mutants. It is interesting that even with his mind being shattered, he still remembers the betrayal and everything he went through with the Holocaust.
I mean, it's certain things are burned into your freaking your head. Like it's
Because literally he's trying to beat the hate out of this man when life is trying to beat the hate into him since he was born.
I love the symbolism behind everything.
And it is interesting that they pick Sunspot and Rogue to be the two to go up toe to toe with Bastion at this level of his power.
There's just two that can get to him the fastest.
Like I say, because nobody else on that thing is going to be able to do anything with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are
So
more like annoyances than actual hits. Great for stalling, though.
he just keep putting him in a line of fire.
Yeah. It's like, dodge this. Gotcha. This show is also giving Nightcrawler some huge ups. Nope, no, no, no. Don't you dare kill him. There we go.
Yeah.
I still will say the underwear on the outside is a weird look, but whatever, Scott.
He said, "You want to go toe for toe?" There we go. I'm talking
There you
about Cyclops.
Oh, now he's down. Hey, Jubilee, nice shot. All right,
Jubilee.
good for you, girl. Kind of sacrifice to look for it, but I see you. Oh, oh, all right.
And she went to melt his face. I'm like,
All right, how many holes are we gonna rip in this thing before space ends up killing everybody? Let's be real here.
Made Sauron.
Dang, Bastion been lifting. Never skip leg day. Someone shoot him right now. I don't. Why is no one shooting now? Are we doing the Dragon Ball Z thing where we all watch from the sideline?
He's lining up. Come on.
Appealing to his humanities again? Oh, hello. Humanity made their decision.
That's the Magneto Protocol. Yep.
Everybody get out. Yeet yourselves out of there.
Let's launch rockets at an asteroid that we're gonna drop out the sky. That's in Earth's orbit.
Well,
Mr. Fantastic.
shout out to Pedro Pascal.
He's not gonna let his girl go.
How is she breathing in space? Anyone want to ask that right now? No. Time for logics out the window.
Well, it is a cartoon, freaking, but I do know the asteroid floats freaking high in Earth
Some
orbit.
logic still needs to be here.
Yeah, there's still oxygen, but yeah, I mean, I don't think for how they're going ham, yeah, I don't think it's enough for him not be breathing hard.
So you basically need to nuke this rock in space right now. So it's just
All right, Forrest can fix your arm, I'm sure.
like you'll be able to make this work. Good for you, Cable. Good for you, dude.
Here we go.
Scott's getting a nice boon here. The theme music being played in opera form. Nice touch. That was to intercept the asteroid. Okay.
No, that's a lie. They're pushing out
Propaganda.
Mary Jane and Peter Park. I told. There to go.
Morph over there beside his boy. That's a little weird.
This is his best friend.
Yeah, it's a little weird though.
Yeah.
Somebody else's girl that you're still begging for as you're dying. Yikes.
I mean, he did what he thinks he needs to get Logan back on track.
Always a bridesmaid, never a bride.
Yeah. If Magneto comes out of it, freaking, then he can do his thing.
Guess he could rip the whole thing apart and just, hey, my bad. My bad. I made a mistake. I'm still saying though Magneto's not a villain in any of this. I get his perspective entirely.
Throughout the entirety of the series, the most I'll give him is I'll give him that freaking anti-hero, anti-villain in that realm.
Yeah, he's walking that line as fine as it can be. His actions aren't blameless, but his logic behind his actions were sound enough. There he is. He woke up. Talk about waking from a nap at the right time. Oh,
And Nightcrawler do his thing.
that would be nuts. There he is.
Called it.
Scarlet's off world. Someone yanked them through time. You think they're doing a Kang? Does he have any interaction with the X-Men? I know he's not the only one with time travel in all Egypt. Apocalypse. They went the route.
I called it. I knew it.
That would be fun, just dropping people. Just boop, 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 boop. Meh. Oh,
Oh, they all went separate places.
they're in the future. Does that mean they're going to run into Cable? What? Beast, Charles, Nightcrawler, and Rogue are in one place. I don't know who that is.
That's Apocalypse.
Oh dear. Oh, Magneto's here. Hello. Hello, mystery woman. What is your role? Oh, Cable.
There it is.
Wow. They're trying to pull out the huge guns already.
Yeah. So we got Nate and freaking was like Rachel.
There's nothing in the
Wow.
post credits. I've skimmed through. Oh, there's one scene at 38:20. If you want to skip to that one time. Oh,
Yeah.
Apocalypse.
So we got the past with freaking Apocalypse sitting there, and then we got the future.
Yeah, 38:20, guys. There is a little teaser for what Apocalypse has ongoing. So that's wild. My goodness. That was something.
Yeah, that was definitely something.
I mean, now there's so many storylines that are going to be running concurrently. I'm still wondering why they took the time to pay attention to Scarlet Witch and to mention that she was off world in Forge's notes. As you know, isn't she a constant in the Marvel universe?
She's what's known as a Nexus being, so freaking technically the way it is there's only one of her that exists. She can transcend freaking different, time space. Her chaos magic allows her to do a lot of stuff. Was obviously changed in the MCU for how they do, but also a lot of things that end up happening. It also gets retconned in the comics, so to go back and change stuff like they changed up again, Scarlet Witch's origin and the how the parentage and stuff worked and a few other things. So yeah, there's a couple things that change, but yeah, I mean otherwise she's really still the same.
So I think there is also an elephant in the room that needs to be addressed. Morph, Logan, Sunspot, and Jubilee those are the four that aren't accounted for. Did we see Storm pop up with Charles and Magneto in them?
All right, so it looks like Morph, Wolverine, Jubilee, and Sunspot are all still present day. None of them were transported. It doesn't look like. Again, Wolverine and Morph remain to be seen. Um, they were up there when all the stuff went down, so they could be anywhere. So at that freaking again, so they're just up in the air. We don't know where they are. I'm pretty sure they also got travel through time somewhere. So it'll be Wolverine and Morph probably at a different location or in one of those timelines somewhere, possibly
I
with
think they showed
Cyclops.
Logan in a World War II.
Yeah,
Looked a
it would
while
probably
back.
make sense to drop them with Cyclops and Jean, so that they're not necessarily outnumbered. It's just the two of them. You can have some backup there. But Jubilee and Sunspot are definitely still on Earth with Forge, and that's where we're going to probably get freaking X Factor, or sorry, X Force in play, freaking to figure out what happened to the rest of the X Men.
And did we see Aurora with Charles and with Magneto, or is she elsewhere as well?
Did not see her either. She's another one who's up in the air. I'm trying. I'm like just racking my brain trying to process everything that happened in that last episode. So yeah, so we got Wolverine, Morph, and Storm unaccounted for.
Because Jubilee and Sunspot are still, for all
They were,
intents and purposes, we believe made it to Earth.
yeah, they went down to Earth, so they were standing there with Forge when
Okay.
when that stuff popped.
I'm literally writing down where everybody is. So, and I'm sure you and Tony will have a field day speculating where season two is going to go, because right now, see, the rumor is season two will be out before the end of next year easily. They said it's very, very
Yeah,
doable for all those
when
things,
I think it was like winter time, next year, like in the fall, next year.
which I
So
would be all for, because I mean, this series probably had one of the strongest season ones of most animated shows, I would say, period. I think the only one that I think holds par for my generation anyway would be what Invincible is, but at the same time, it's, I'm at the mercy if I just watched this episode. I just watched this series, so I'll give it some time to marinate and see where we're at with things. So we ended up with Scott and Jean hanging out with their son Nathan. And then what was the name of the woman that they were with?
that showed up,
Yascani? Yeah.
Mother Escani. That's their daughter.
You're gonna have to embellish a little further on that one for my knowledge. And forgive me those in chat.
It's gotta be
The X-Men and all their storylines.
yeah, freaking that's Rachel Summers. So that's gonna be a whole thing with that. Um, with fact is that Nathan is there. Freaking, it's like
Yeah, things are very complicated. I gotta say, as for me, this episode, if I had to rate the finale out of 10, I'm shooting a strong 9.5 on this one.
I mean,
It was dang near perfect. How you feeling?
yeah, it's definitely there. Freaking, um, when I saw the thing for Apocalypse, that's the only thing that threw me. I was like, okay, we're bringing Apocalypse in here. I'm like, I wasn't too excited about that because we've done Apocalypse already. But
Poorly, but it was done by Fox.
but the fact is that you got Insabunur and Apocalypse separately. So you have Apocalypse during present day that it looks like X Force is gonna have to deal with. You got Insabunur who was dealing with being persecuted in the past, and then you've got Rachel and Nathan in the future, and whatever happens in the future, whoever they're dealing with, which I see strife coming into play.
Oh yeah, and then I gotta agree with Nicholas in the chat. Episode was very unreal. That was a phenomenal, phenomenal clothing to it. CR, what does Storm do alone? Like everyone else, nothing. I mean, she did a huge part in ensuring that the Rock stayed up just long enough for Magneto to do a dang thing, and then we still have to figure out what ripple in time caused things to move the way that it did. Because you don't just have instant teleportation between time where all of a sudden people are getting ripped through moments in time. I initially said Kang. I was very, very wrong. We had Apocalypse be the person who's making this move. And if you guys saw the post credit scene, he seems like he is on one. And then you're going to have to explain for me, and maybe this could help some people in chat. And Sabanur, what's the difference?
I mean, N. Sabanur was, before Apocalypse became Apocalypse, that was his identity. So this could be something where you're messing with time to where they may alter the way, like, we don't know how much, we don't know if something's going to have an effect. So if something is done back in the past, is it going to be a separate timeline? Or is it going to affect what's going on in the present day timeline or even in the future timeline? We don't know what wavelengths they're on. So again, they could be in split timelines, and where they could be in the past back here where this was going this way, present day had went this way, and then the future could be going this way. Or so this could be they could be feeding into each other one after the other, and one thing could be affecting the other. Like, I don't know, but something's got to give, and I got a lot of thinking to do, and I got to get Tony to help me brainstorm where this is going to go.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do our best to keep the episode recap short and sweet tomorrow, but I'm shooting probably another 30 minutes. Easy, probably. You guys will have to have your own spin-off series to predict where the future goes. Another comment from CR. Horrible episode. What did they do? All that with Storm's character show her to do nothing. Fan lost. My friend, I don't see personally on my side here that what we're talking about here. I think Storm's character was beautifully written. I think her love story was fantastic. I understand she's an Omega level mutant. She was willing to risk her life not only for Magneto but for the cause of the people. And she was willing even to champion for Bastion, who'd done nothing but show hatred and just unapologetic hatred for X-Men in its entirety. I think she was well written. She was well done. I think she did the best she could in the situation that she had. Will, you want to make a tag along with that?
I'm gonna jump in here with that. Freaking, while Storm's character was written beautifully all the way through and stuff like that, I honestly believe that they just wanted to showcase some other things going on, which is why this particular episode, Storm didn't just come down and drop freaking lightning bolts on everything. Yes, I do believe Storm could have just rocked the boat like ridiculously, but they wanted to go in a different direction to get some more of the story exposition out and get some of the characters for the setup. Again, yeah, I would have expected Storm to kind of go out there and I would expect the Storm to go out there with Rogue and kind of do some stuff. Like, even if you had her go out there and have her, tied up, then that would have been the thing. But also, she was proven earlier on to be a non-factor with dealing with Bastion, as Bastion had her hemmed up with the other X-Men earlier in the episode. So she was already dealt with once and stuff like that. Freaking wouldn't be surprised if she'd have been dealt with again with the way Bastion was kind of steamrolling everybody. But again, I do agree that I would have loved to have seen her kind of go in. Okay, and he could have played to her claustrophobia if he imprisoned her in a box and kind of took her out. You could have easily explained that part and just been like, bam, she's out. But again, she's one of the most powerful cards on the board, and she did not get used. So I agree she should have been utilized for the fight in some capacity, or being put to a point where she was maintaining something. Again, if she was shown that she had to focus on holding up the asteroid and she was doing her best to do that, and that's where her focus was, and she couldn't fight, that would have made sense. You could have put her there, and then she would have been out of the fight, and you could have let everybody else kind of go how they were going and kind of figure it out. she's one of the most powerful. Freaking so having her and Jean run the vacuum again, everything, and they're trying to do all the stuff to keep the thing afloat while the fight with Bastion's going on. That would have made sense.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
CR seems to be agreeing with you. There was several follow-up comments. She barely did a scene on this episode. She didn't get to use her powers in a singular scene by herself. Thank you for acknowledging that. They can't have a powerhouse and not use her in some way. In that regard, I do have to agree. At the same time, I feel like the writing was trying to push a point that this was more of a team collective effort. And I understand that Magneto has gotten significant flex in this because he had two or three of the biggest scenes, and Scott also had probably one of the biggest scenes in episode 1 when he did his laser vision superhero landing that made so many fans' jaws just straight drop. So I think she was shown in certain episodes to be insanely powerful, but I feel like her matchup with Bastion overall was more of her kryptonite in this one. I just don't think it was her strongest strengths, even with her Omega level powers and her being probably, in my opinion, the coolest character on the show. She was good for the sake of being good. She was strong for the sake of being strong, and she was the strongest for her family. Because, like, even when Jean was having her moment rising up as the Phoenix, Storm was out here rooting for her girl. She was like, "This is family. This is what we do." Um, Jean was in 90% of the season. Yep, Jean was the primary focus. The Summers family is the primary focus of season 1. How season 2 will go, to be debated. CR, to be debated.
I will give Jean 80% of the season, seeing as how Madeline was in the first 2 episodes.
And I gotta say, I fucks a
But
little bit with Madeline. Jean, nah,
no,
the
Jean
boys
was.
incredible.
I mean, this revolved around time travel stuff. It revolved around Jean. It revolved around Cable, and Sinister and that whole thing. I think where with Jean with this again, this was kind of her setup to kind of finish that rotation because that was the main thing about the whole swap and Madeline and everything. So yeah, Jean was the focal point of this season. But I do think that going forward and stuff like that, they could put less of a focal point on her and now more of a focal point on the team because Cable is also still back there. I didn't forget about him. Cable is also still back there. And most likely Ford is going to take care of him with his arm and all that kind of stuff. So I think now we're going to focus on some other characters.
Bishop, I think, is going to be a huge piece in season 2 just due to the time travel.
Yeah,
He's essential at this point.
Bishop and Forge are going to be the primary pieces probably going forward. Jubilee kind of helping guide freaking Sunspot through
Yeah.
and trying to figure stuff out. But I'm hoping that while we're going to get more from everybody and have moments that I do expect to probably see Havoc at some point since we're focusing on the Summers family. And the fact is that we got Rachel and stuff there. Yeah, I definitely want to see the different heroes shine. That's when it started off, like that's kind of what we were looking at. We see, Cyclops came in and he had his freaking moment. You seen Storm come in and have her moment. We seen Wolverine, Nightcrawler have freaking that twin moment together. We saw Gambit have his moment. Because I like that trend that we were going on. But again, as we got towards the end of the season, so at that, we still had cool moments kind of back around. Vulcan, yeah, Vulcan, Vulcan. Oh boy,
That's a can of worms in of itself.
yeah, that's a whole can of worms with Vulcan and stuff like that. I want to see if they're gonna, like Vulcan. I think again when they showed all this stuff, they show for a couple Easter eggs with that, and don't really have any plans to use anybody. And that's kind of what I was seeing what Morph and stuff was doing as well. And that's why when we saw the Shi'ar kind of stuff, and we see these other characters, we see Vulcan, we see everybody. It's more or less just kind of like, hey, surprise, here's somebody, but not necessarily utilize them. Like Colossus was on the board, and I got to go back and look and see that board, see who else was on Forge's board, but Colossus was on that board who was still present. Is with that. Omega Red is loose. I won't be surprised if we see Colossus freaking going to kind of scrap with Omega at some point.
You don't think they're going to unite the brothers?
I mean, I don't know. You put Vulcan, Havoc, and Scott together and have them do stuff. It's possible they could play that out in the future. It is definitely possible that they could play that out. But if they do play that out in the future, I got to look at the time jump as far as how far in advance that was, because I don't know the time.
It looked like 3022, if I'm not
Uh,
mistaken, but I didn't write it down,
3000 3960 AD.
so I missed it by about 900 years. I was a little bit off,
So
but
3960 AD, and then you got we're 3000 on the other end. So with that, and you got to think about when this was. It was X-Men 97. So with that, so they're not around during this time. Hey, no problem. Hey, not a problem. You have a great one. Um,
and then I have a little fan question from my side of things, being so new to this and so interested in what we have ongoing.
I like
Do you
CR.
think do you think that because we have the Deadpool and Wolverine movie looming on the horizon, that Deadpool could be used in a time traveling capacity as a side character for season two, so they can kind of piggyback a little bit off the MCU, seeing as it'll be one after the other.
MCU. Apparently, MCU has listed X-Men 97 under the MCU timeline in the Disney Plus. So that if that's the case, it is a possibility that we could have a time jump moment where Deadpool's going through different times. Like we could see him walk through the animated timeline and connect the dots, and that could be simple as that. He could walk in and have Bishop before sitting there, and he could be like, "What's up?" and keep it moving. Like anything can happen at that point. Um, I want to say again, we saw Daredevil, Team Red as a possibility, but I think we're just kind of setting up for several animated shows at this point. So right now, Spider Man, we saw Mary Jane, Peter Parker, so that we saw Daredevil, we saw Cloak and Dagger. You're going to allow them to do. It's going to allow us to do a street level thing with Spider Man. So you can do the street level, you can do a Kingpin, you can do all that stuff there, and whatever. That's a whole show with Spider Man right there. You can run all that together.
King T'Chaka, we can get Wakanda in its own animated series. I'm just saying,
We
if you're
can
gonna do it, you need to do it now.
we can do it, and then you can also bring back an animated. You can do an animated Avengers because you already see Iron Man, Cap. So at some point we've seen Hulk from Morse Transformation. So again, he is present, and you can kind of bring all that together. You have X Force right now, so I think this is X Men '97. So I wouldn't be surprised if season. So it said season 2 is done. That's what that. So this can be X Men '97 season 2, or they can spin off and call it X Force. They can run it
X
however
Men '98.
because they're still going to be running all the stuff because it's been a few months since the whole time warp thing happened. So depending on how they want to run it, they're going to be running multiple storylines at one time. So and again, it could all converge at some point. So we got 3 separate, past, present, and future. And I think it's kind of a freaking shout out to Tony's favorite movie, Days of Future Past, right?
Oh,
They
he's
can
not gonna
definitely
do that.
freaking run past, present, future, and run all the different storylines and see where it converges at some point. And then again, that'll be the focal point will probably be present day with whoever sent them in time and did the little temporal warp so that will have to bring them back to that time. So they'll have to get pulled back to where they need to be. So
There's so many different interesting moving pieces. I think they did a great job of setting themselves up for open interpretation and for fans to sit here like us, and for the fans in chat to sit here and be like, look, Spider-Man can be a thing over here with Mary Jane. We focused on Silver Samurai a lot, Red Omega a lot. Two characters that, a casual perspective, the people don't know a lot about, and there's a lot of research to be done on that, where they were shown in a lot of capacities here. Victor Von Doom, Doctor Doom, was seen in this. We had, as well as, I'm blanking on the name, of
so look, if
course,
we
right
got
now.
Silver
We had
Samurai,
Baron Zemo as
Zemo,
well pop up.
Doom, freaking it looked like it was Crimson Dynamo and Omega Red together. I did gotta go back and look at the girl and see who that is. So we got some bad guys and stuff on the table. We saw Alpha
We saw
Flight.
Cap. We saw Iron Man. We've
Yeah.
seen a lot of big pieces move place because Cloak and Dagger was there. Moon Knight was probably the only one that I would have hoped we would have gotten a little bit of a glimpse of, just because of how well I think Moon Knight has translated with the new fans overall. The series was, I think, one of the better ones of the new ones that came out, personally.
Mhm.
And I think that it would be interesting, definitely, to see. It would have been funny as all hell, truth be told, if Moon Knight appeared, and then because the actor who plays Moon Knight also played Apocalypse in X-Men,
Oh,
to have been like, damn it, that's me again. Or something
that
along that
guy.
line of like acknowledging that, and people just chalk it up to Moon Knight,
I
being,
mean,
crazy.
you haven't ruled it out for next season.
So I was like, I think it would be an interesting piece to be in play. But I think, honestly, you're right that they didn't go with it, because next season, especially with things taking place in Egypt, that someone whose roots are so deeply tied to Egypt, that
It's
ultimately he has to be an essential piece moving forward. And then, who was the chick that was in Moon Knight that got her own superhero upgrade as well?
oh
She
shit,
was chosen. Like I said, I'm
freaking
blanking on her name right now, just due to the fact that it's 1 a.m. my time, about 4 a.m. your time.
yeah,
She
freaking
was good too. She was
Layla
very good too.
Foley. Layla, I can't remember her hero name.
Looks like she was chosen by the Hippo Goddess, if I'm not mistaken. So,
She's
like, it's going to be interesting
Scarlet
to speculate.
Scarlet Scarab.
I
Scarlet
think
Scarab.
so.
But
I
I can't.
think so.
Yeah, Layla
The
El
Scarlet part, I'm like,
Fawzi.
yeah,
Scarlet Scarab. Okay, I was like, I know I'm true. Like I know her freaking name.
because like Egypt is going to be an interesting setting, and then going into the future, that's going to be interesting, because what villains in the future usually interact, I'll say, from a speculative standpoint, with our X-Men. Because it didn't look like that society was doing good at all, truth be told. The one where we saw Jean Grey, Scott, and then we saw a young Nathan Summers as well as his sister hanging out in. Who usually messes with them during the future in the comic storyline, if you can remember?
I
I know you're heavy with Marvel, but I don't know if you're heavy X-Men with
Apocalypse is all encompassing. Freaking like again, he lives so long and comes resurrect. So he's the main one that comes to mind. Um, yeah, I got to sit there and play around with it and try to remember. It's been years since I read those comics. I didn't really care too much for a lot of the future ones, so that because when it starts jumping around like that, when I was younger, I got confused. I couldn't follow everything. So I'm gonna literally rack my brain when I wake up and try to see like who are some of the primary enemies and who else could possibly coming up.
Because I was gonna say, like, if Jonathan Majors did not have the legal troubles that he did have, and Kang wasn't as well perceived as he was by the fan base when he had his titular entrance into Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I think honestly they could have done some interpretation where Kang could be what Mr. Sinister was. Because I'm not saying Sinister is down and out.
No, he's
He
not
definitely
dead.
could come back in some capacity, because I'm still fascinated by the fact he was as interested in Cable as he was. What was his fascination with Cable? Because from a new fan standpoint, I don't see where he necessarily needed to have Cable as his pet project moving forward.
I mean, it's more or less. I mean, he's been with the X Men for a bit, and he wants to help. So again, taking him to the future to get him straight is more or less just like, hey, I'm looking out for you guys. But freaking Cable and Bishop, they've always they've been on friendly terms for a while. So that I can't
That was
remember.
a meaning of Mr. Sinister. Why was he as fascinated with Cable? Sorry if I was unclear.
Oh, I mean that's where Strife comes in play again. He wants to create the perfect. He needs somebody to build up the little techno virus and all that kind of stuff. So again, you put a powerful psychic, which again, Cable is a powerful psychic, and so that's one of the reasons why Jean was so just like, okay, I can't get my hands on Professor X, but freaking Jean is definitely more powerful. Freaking, I want to use her. She's had the Phoenix and all this stuff. He's seen all this stuff happen, so her spawn would be perfect to utilize. Hence why doing a swap, if they have a baby, that's what I want. That's what I need to make things happen. So
I always find it a little interesting that I'll say from a new fan perspective, that two characters in this series shined for me in ways that I didn't expect. And I'm gonna go first off with Nightcrawler. I didn't give Nightcrawler his props or his shine, so to speak, because I saw what he was in, the X-Men live action movies, which I think were well cast, but the stories were subpar at certain points, regardless of some of the high caliber of the actors and actresses that they hired for those jobs at the time that they had them. But also, we should still give those X-Men films at least some shine, because without them, we still wouldn't necessarily have the push forward we did initially, even though we should give Blade definitely his flowers for sure, for how, most of the cinematic universe set itself up. But I didn't give Nightcrawler his proper shine. And in this series, he was a great friend. He was a steadfast believer in the X-Men and their cause. And he was essential in some of these fights. Like, if he wasn't holding it down the way that he was, and then the way he showed up for Logan, I want to say in the Extinction Part 2 episode, where he showed up holding three swords. Like, come on.
Yeah,
That's dope as hell.
he's a fighter. He's a confidant. He's a brother. He's family. He's freaking a counselor. He's freaking a priest. He has been everything they needed him to be, and he's been the most versatile. So
It's like he has the shine for me. And then, of course, I'm going to go with everyone's favorite controversial character, is probably another one of my standouts for this series thus far, Magneto. I think his ideology, his mindset, where his frame of mind has been, his belief in mutants and the way humanity would perceive him, not only were his ideologies proven right to an extreme extent, but at the same time, he still learned throughout the series that even when going down his path, so to speak, things didn't end up even where he wanted it at all. Even by exerting himself the way he did and the powers that he has, he still wasn't able to bring about the future he wanted ultimately. And that there are people that are still willing to fight to oppose him and keep him from getting to that moment in time. But his power of magnetism, where he literally reset Earth, and then his ability at the very tail end there to save Earth as one of his like immediate waking up from a coma actions. I got to give Magneto his flowers, as his mindset was so interesting to see how he's progressed throughout the series, because the sadness and deep felt emotions he had when Aurora got hit, he was able to overcome his hate in that moment in time. Be like, cool, I'll fully embody Charles' thing. I'm going to take up this cross. I'm going to walk with it daily. It ain't no thing. I'm going to stand up and represent my X-Men for her and for Charles. Charles died for this. And then as the series adapted and as humanity adapted, he was proven that because of Genosha, that no matter how much, kindness you show, sometimes you just can't overcome all that hate. And then he took his extreme actions and then learned that even with him being the way he is, Bastion's future was inevitable, and that, you know, even through brute force, sometimes you can't will things into existence. So Magneto, I think, was a great psychology and dichotomy and mirror for a lot of the characters on this season. You have any standout characters or anything you'd like to add on to that?
if I could say characters that I think shine, so that freaking yeah, Nightcrawler is definitely one. And the fact is, Nightcrawler shined so hard coming in, partway through the season. So it's just fantastic to see. Uh, Storm throughout the series had her moments. Her dialogue was great. Her, overcoming her stuff, like everything throughout her. I think she was doing fantastic all the way up until the last episode was the kind of. But I know why they did it to her, but it's sort of
You
making me
don't
sad.
necessarily agree with
Yeah.
why.
So Storm, Nightcrawler are my top two, and as for my third one, so at that, you know, definitely still Cyclops. So at that, and the only reason I say Cyclops so that because again, his story, like he started off strong. He had a moment of weakness, kind of dealing with the stuff going on, but he came back around the end about getting stuff done and being what he needed to be as a leader. And I thought that was fantastic for him because again, this is revolving around the summers. Period. This entire thing is
Season
about
one
the summers.
was the summer
So
of the summers.
yeah, so I can't sit there and say that I can't not acknowledge freaking Scott and what he was doing to kind of take everything forward. So them three: Scott, Aurora, Kurt.
Like I say, Aurora was fantastic. I still, the longer I'm sitting here and thinking about it, is like I wish she could have done a bit more, but at the same time, the way it was written, it just made sense. Like it just made sense that she wasn't overdoing her part. She was being a part of her family and doing what she could without damaging what everyone else around her was doing. And then see what else. Another payback was Scott. For me, I'm still conflicted overall as like whether he was cool or what he was not cool. But I will say he showed his true heart, his true character, his true nature of who he is at the end. I gotta say he seems like a really really genuinely good dude. He's just very very human at times to a fault almost. Like he the way he was speaking in front of the media was reckless. His love triangle was messy. He was still communicating with Madeline while still courting Jean, who was a telepath of all peoples. Like, why in the world would you cheat on someone who can literally invade your mind, so to speak? Like, things were sloppy at best. And just trying to reel that in at the end, I think he did a fantastic job of stepping up not only as a father for Cable, but also just as a man for himself and for his family, which any man can respect another man being a good dad, a good father, a good husband. You know, well, I don't even know if he's married, but like he seems like they are that close. So he just seemed like someone you could really root for at the very very end there. So as much crap as I have given him throughout the series, Scott stepped up. Scott did good. I don't really feel anything like too negative about him right now. So I'm very happy with where they left things off overall for me. This episode was definitely a 9.5. There were so many high points and so many excuse me, well told stories throughout that this was fantastic. I think if Marvel can build up an animated universe to go alongside their slowly regressing cinematic universe, then they'll be just fine and they'll bounce right back in a big way, especially if they can get that Spider-Man series up and running, especially if they can do an Avengers series because we've seen Cap and Iron Man and what they were going to do in reaction to what's been going on with the mutants. And then especially, I think they really need to double down here and go, look, King T'Chaka, we're going to bring Wakanda into the light. We're going to have a series showing them some shine. And I think using T'Chaka instead of T'Challa would be a good touch and a good workaround at this moment in time because we know the passing of Chadwick Boseman still affects many, many people. And I didn't necessarily hate what they did with Black Panther 2, but at the same time, it felt like there was just a giant vacuum where Chadwick Boseman's charisma, his flair, his sense of humanity, his passions, his acting was.
Oh, I didn't like Black Panther 2 for some of the stuff they did. The whole nother can, but Shuri was ridiculously freaking annoying.
So like I think using T'Chaka instead of T'Challa would be a nice touch, but at the same time, will they go that route? They've left the door open, and that's all I can root for. Doctor Strange was even shown, so we could have some magical mystery show going on. Cloak and Dagger was shown, which truth be told, I don't know that much about Cloak and Dagger. And then I'm assuming that they held up with Moon Knight, but they showed Daredevil instead because Moon Knight is going to be more prevalent in what's going on in this next series, but it will not be the Moon Knight that we know for obvious reasons
I mean,
because
did they
we're
say
what
they were bringing on
3,000
Moon Knight?
years in the future, well 3,000 years in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Moon Knight will make sense to come in the future. I swear that in the past, I swear that again, Khonshu can choose anybody to be his avatar and work as Moon Knight. I swear that. So unless it's present day, I swear that Moon Knight's not going to be like the Moon Knight that we know is not going to be there. So that's a whole big thing. But I don't remember seeing anything where they said they're going to bring in Moon Knight or that Moon Knight needed to be brought in. And honestly, I don't think it doesn't matter if he's there or not. It really doesn't.
I'm just assuming because it is Egypt that they're going to do this. Like anytime you show New York and Marvel, everyone always goes, "Where's Spider-Man?" He has to be there to some
He's the
extent.
face of the company, whereas in Egypt it's kind of like, I mean, yes, where he kind of was out, he's figuring stuff out, and then his powers and stuff came into effect. But again, we might see Khonshu or an avatar of Khonshu at some point. We may actually see Khonshu doing, his stuff as like, you know, possessing somebody and working as Moon Knight. It can go either way. Like so, we may or may not. It would be a nice little cameo, Easter egg, whatever they want to put in there. But it won't hurt me if they don't.
Yeah, I'm fanboying at this point to try and get certain characters in. Obviously, a Merc with a mouth. I would love to have a cameo role. I don't want him to be the main spotlight thing. If Deadpool has his own series, I want it to be like what Harley Quinn was in the early seasons, but just focusing on him doing, all the shenanigans that we at Geek Variants know and love, but not necessarily something that would detract from X Men. Because even if you added him in this series, I feel like he's a small positive. He's not a big win, but I think that if we can incorporate, like an Iceman, or we can incorporate one of the other mutants who have been left out that was part of the pivotal team, at least in some capacity, for this next upcoming season. Because I know Scarlet Witch was shown 2 or 3 different times in the finale episode. So they could be heavy angling for leaning into trying to get Magneto's family on screen in some capacity, which I think would be very interesting to see.
I
You
mean, they
think that
showed
they
him on the
would
book.
follow up this season with like a House of M style season?
Yeah, it's possible, but I mean, I don't see with the way things are going right now. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, it would make sense just far as storytelling, but I mean, again, we never know. Season 2 is already finished, so they're just basically going to wait and see. I don't think they're going to try and hit us back to back with it immediately, like Solo Leveling is on our anime side, where it just finished up in probably what, March, and then they're going to come back in December. They'll have news, they said, coming within the next 2 weeks for us on that regard and on that front. I think X-Men 97 having it drop sometime next year, whether it be early or late. I'm absolutely all for another season and seeing what season 3 and or season 4 could do with either a potential, new writer because the previous one was let go, or whether he gets brought back for, whatever's going on, because I'm not going to sit here and speculate on something that I don't necessarily understand what could have been going on. And even Marvel and the writer himself have been a little hush hush on, you know what I'm saying? Like it feels like there wasn't a lot of things expanded upon at that moment in time.
Dark Star was the other one. I was like trying to remember her freaking name. Dark Star, Omega Red, and Crimson Dynamo. That's who
Like
the three were together.
and there's a lot of moving pieces that you can do with that. There's a lot of stuff you can touch upon. The series as a whole was, I think, only episode 4 was one where I was like, don't really care for it. Everything else was at least an 8 or an 8.5 and above. We'll have more of a concrete breakdown once we get, Tony on board tomorrow for, well, technically today, because now my time has shifted over as well. We'll have a more concrete breakdown on that one. Any other thoughts you really want to tag on here? Anything, a little addendums, characters you want to give a shout out to, a little bit of a shine to? I know we'll have our full breakdown on the channel. So If you're just tuning in, you want to miss, some of the coverage, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Greatly helps us out. Appreciate you guys. And it's an easier way of being able to keep track of what's going on with all things geek, covered from Geek Variants, because we cover Marvel, we cover DC, Lord of the Rings, anime, gaming, Star Wars, and more. I already did a breakdown on the Lord of the Rings trailer that just dropped. Super hyped about the Rings of Power, but we're here to talk about X-Men. So anything you in particular else you wanted to add on? Will, I'm sure you're theory crafting like crazy pertaining to the finale or what could be lurking for us in season 2.
Oh yeah, I've been looking up everything. So but yeah, no, nothing else. I mean, everything was solid. Everything was good. Again, Marvel, you definitely came out there and came out swinging with this animation. So I'm happy for it, and I'm excited to see what we got with season 2. I'm hoping that we get a season 3 and season 4 at some point, freaking if the story permits and it can carry on. Definitely would like to see some more Spider-Man in some capacity, because that would be great to show. Because his rogues
They only tease him like what, 3 times this season?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I need it. I need it.
And then like on top of that, we still have, the absolutely marvelous What If series. We still have that has been coming and going with the best of them. I will say Marvel's definitely stepped up their animation. Because I know back in the day, everyone was like DC animated, the GOAT, undefeated. Some of the series they had was some of the best of all time. And then they just couldn't figure out live action to save their life as far as getting their connected universe. And Marvel just stepped in and was like, oh, this is how you do it. This is how it's supposed to be done. And now Marvel seems to have kind of like lost its way to an extent, and because it's like hit, miss, hit, miss. It just alternates back and forth between their movies and shows. And then now all of a sudden, hey, this animation thing? Maybe it ain't so bad. Maybe it ain't so difficult. We got this pretty well wrapped up and pretty well, covered with a bow. Because I mean, this was the strongest season 1 I've seen for most shows in a long time as far as animation is concerned. I think Invincible season 1 is the only one where I'm like, you know what, this can go toe to toe, at least in my lifetime that I've seen. How do we feel about that?
Yeah, this is definitely gonna go.
Yeah. And then let's see. Do we have any other thoughts, or we're gonna save some of the rest of our thoughts for the finale? It looks like the chat is kind of slowly dialing down. If anyone has any comments, by all means, let us know if we want to keep it going. If not, we'll start working on wrapping just due to time constraints. We want to keep at least something for our finale recap with the man whose opinion you truly should care about when it comes to the X-Men. Tony knows his stuff, and he will go toe to toe with the best of them, covering all things involving, the mutants and their lovely storyline.
That was it. I'll wait to see.
All right. So it looks like chat's pretty much quiet at this moment in time. We're going to slowly work on wrapping up. Thank you to each and every one of you who has checked on in. The easiest way keeping in touch with all things geek, hitting that lovely red subscribe button, bottom right corner here, or that red little box below. Just hit that for us if you want to tag along, or hit that like button, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. Tons of great content coming up for you guys. I've been doing a lot of Let's Plays involving Fallout 4, first time player, really enjoying that. We have a Rings of Power trailer recap. I still have to do House of the Dragons official trailer recap, which dropped on the same day because I'll be damned if I get a day off. You know what I'm saying? It dropped in the middle of me live streaming. It is what it is. And then on weekends, we have My Hero Academia's live stream, as well as Kaiju number 8 on Saturdays. And then we have another live stream on Sunday for Demon Slayer. Tons of great content for you guys. So I will hit this one last time. Hit the subscribe button if you guys want to keep up with any of those things, any of those shows interest you. We got tons of great stuff around the corner. I'm Brent. Special guest Will, thank you so much for joining me on this live stream, making it far more interesting than if it was just me reacting to this. And I will say in this episode, Iron Man did not suck. It was nice seeing him. Happy to have him in tow for what could be next season. Thank you for checking out All Things Geek. See you in the next one, folks.